Moving on to a new example here, I want to introduce a tool that is very well suited to black and white photography. The terms used are derived from darkroom techniques, these terms being dodging and burning. Before I start to alter anything at all, I'm going to take my background layer, make sure I have it clicked and highlighted. I'm going to click down and drag to the bottom right corner icon and release it and create a background copy. The reason I want to do this is because any adjustments that I make to this image will appear on the background copy and leave my background layer alone so that I do not damage my original image in any way. So my adjustments are all going to be made with the background copy highlighted. On the far left of the screen in the toolbar, I click and hold this little hand icon. Maybe you see this ink dropper looking icon. Click and hold that and I see the options for dodge tool and burn. Dodging is the act of creating a lighter effect in an image, while burning is creating a darker effect. So in the bottom left corner here, I'm going to click burn tool and I see an error in the bottom left of my picture here I want to fix. I can tell that my exposure is a bit off right there. Maybe something in the darkroom altered that. Maybe there was a smudge on my negative, whatever it might be. I want to adjust this bottom left corner of my image and make that more uniform in tone, because in the context of the picture, this should not be a highlight. So with my burn tool selected, I'm going to adjust the size that I might want for my burn tool. I'm going to adjust the hardness down all the way, and something important here is the exposure. The percentage of the exposure that I use is going to really adjust the intensity of the effect that I get. I'm going to click this range drop down bar here and I can see that I have options here. I have midtones and highlights. So let's try midtones and see what that does. If that's going to sort of lessen the effect or maybe be more appropriate for what I'm trying to do, it's pretty close. It's starting to really make a better effect here, starting to blend this in a little bit better. Photoshop would consider what I'm altering and the sort of darkness of the area that I'm adjusting to be more of a midtone than a shadow. If I decide the effect is too strong, when my background copy is selected, I can go to opacity and actually adjust how strong I want that effect to be based on the opacity of that layer. If I feel it's too much, it's something I can always adjust and change. I feel like 78% is actually a really nice opacity, sort of takes out that big bright spot that I didn't like before. Now to demonstrate the dodge tool, I'm actually going to do a little bit of cleaning up here. I'm going to take my background copy layer, and since I use that for my burn tool, I'm just going to label that burn. I'm going to click and drag my background layer to the create new layer icon, and now I have another background copy. I'm going to label this one dodge. So I'm going to be brightening this layer. All my adjustments to make things darker were on the burn layer. Now on the dodge layer, I'm going to make sure I use my dodge tool, have that selected. My range drop down bar here, shadows, midtones, and highlights. What I'm wanting to adjust here is a midtone for my shoulder. I want my shoulder to become brighter. I want to stand out more. And so my exposure is at 50%. I'm trying and I'm seeing what it's doing. Starting to brighten up a little bit, get things more visible despite the strong shadow in this photograph. I want my shirt to stand out. I want this important element of the picture not to be lost in the darkness here. So now that I can tell that my dodge has made some things brighten up a bit, I'm going to try and see if I can expand it a little bit more and use the highlights. So I'm going to range. I want the highlights, the brightest spots of the picture, to stand out as much as possible. So now I'm going to use the tool and try and get those to come out as much as possible. I'm getting a slight benefit here from the effect. You can kind of tell a little bit. Yeah, when you see the two side by side, here's before and here's after, I can definitely tell that my shirt is beginning to pop out a bit with the highlights and the tonality that otherwise would be lost. I also want to try and use this on my arms. I want that to stand out a bit more. I'm going to use range to go back to midtones to see what that does to brighten this up. I want to see just how much detail I can get from the light here. Now, if the detail is so dark that it does not exist on the photo itself, then you simply can't change it. But you can tell a little bit before and after, the arms are coming up better. So instead of losing myself to the strong shadow effect in the picture, I'm actually causing some of these elements to come out a little bit better.